Welcome to Podnutz Pro, episode number 16. The Pro Show, the Podnutz Pro Show, where we take you from residential into small business support, enterprise support, that whole realm. I know a lot of you guys want to go there, and this is the show to help you do that. So without further ado, I don't think I've ever said that in my life, but without further ado, let me introduce Matt Rainey from ah-computers.com. Hey, Matt.
Hello. Hey, Steve. Hey, Lalo.
Hey, sir. And speaking of Lalo, we have Lalo Nunez from BetterPCTech.com. Hey, Lalo.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. What's going on?
Good.
All right. Well, like I said, this is a show where we kind of try to give you a little bit of taste of what it takes to take your business, take your IT support into the business area, as opposed to just doing, residential. Can you remove my virus? My LimeWire got infected. Blah blah blah. So let's see what Matt has in store for us this week with the notes. Hey, what's that noise?
Sorry about that. I was throwing away some old notes.
Why don't you talk about the new notes here? What do you got? What do you want to talk about?
Okay, well, this week, last week we talked about installing Small Business Server 2008. And that was just a basic install. Some of the prompts you're going to go through when you install. But after you install, you're going to need to set up users. And I thought about how to break this up because there's still a lot of people on Small Business Server 2003. And user management in SBS 03 is completely different than user management in SBS 08. So since you're still going to be supporting SBS 03, I want to talk about user management and computer management part 1 in this show.
Sure.
And there's certain ways to create users and create computer accounts when you have a domain. You hear about Active Directory. Active Directory, well, part of it is just all of your users and computer accounts. It's just a directory of everything. There's more included, but users and computers are two of the main things. So when you create a user on your server or in your server management tools, you're actually adding to Active Directory. It's not a complicated thing. It's just a listing of accounts. When you create a local account on your local computer, that's a directory. It's just a local directory. So when you create it on the server, it's part of Active Directory.
Okay.
So it's not scary. It's just a different directory you're adding the user to. So the first thing to remember is Small Business Server loves its wizards. It wants you to do wizards for pretty much everything. And if you don't use the wizards, it is usually.
I guess in the beginning it's a good thing.
Yes. There's some fine detailed things that you can't do in the wizards, and we'll get to that on another show, but overall, you're going to use the wizards for pretty much everything. And if you don't use the wizard, you're going to see you can run into problems. And I see a lot of places where I go in, things just aren't working right because of the way they created the users. So to create users in Small Business Server 03, you're going to use a tool, Server Management. And that's just when you start Server Management, brings up a Server Management console. There's a lot of things in here. The two sections that we're going to talk about is one section for users and one section for computers. Click on the computers link, and it brings up all the users that have been added using Server Management. Now, you might hear about, if you read books or if you're using straight server, not SBS, you might want to use a tool called Active Directory Users and Computers. You don't want to use that to add a user. Usually, there's cases for everything, but you usually don't want to use that on Small Business Server. And there's issues because we're going to go through two wizards in this show. One, add a user, and two, add a computer. And that's the only two wizards we're going to go through. In real life, these wizards might take 30 seconds to go through, but they're doing a lot of things behind the scenes that you need to know what's happening when you're adding a user.
And we're doing 08, right? Or 03?
We're going to do 03 first.
Okay, 03, gotcha.
Yeah, it's completely different in 08. They changed it a lot.
Okay.
So when you're in a server management tool, you click on users, you get the list of users that you have set up, if you have any users set up. And there'll be a few service accounts and administrator, but you'll see your users. To add a user, just click the mysteriously labeled add a user. Okay, it's not very complicated. They're not trying to trick you. It's called add a user. So you click on add a user. You get a welcome screen as you do for pretty much everything you do with Microsoft. Click next at the add user screen. The next screen you get to is a user account information. And here you're going to have a place for your first name, last name, logon name, email, alias. There's also a spot for telephone, which I find strange. I'm not sure why that's needed right there. You can leave that blank or you can put it in. Now, in this screen, I see a lot of people who just put a first name, Bob. They put Bob, they put a password, they click next. Whatever you put right here in first name and last name is going to be what people see when you email them. So if you create an account, just call it Bob with no last name. When Bob emails somebody from his computer, it's going to show up from Bob. So remember that what you put in here is going to show up as the display name for the email account. So it just bugs me when people don't put a last name. I hate getting an email from Bob. Bob who? Put the last name.
Right.
Or when a client will call me and say, create a user for Bob. Okay. We've been through this before. I need Bob's first name, Bob's last name, So just fill it all out. It looks much more professional when you get an email from somebody with their full name.
Sure. It's a good tip.
So email alias, it's going to, whatever you put for first name and last name, it's going to auto fill in the email alias and logon name. You can change that to whatever you want. I like to be consistent. So if you're going to use first initial last name or whatever you're going to use, I like to be consistent. But just know that when it auto-populates, you can change that to whatever you want in that screen.
Okay.
The next screen is just to enter your password. You're going to have to put it twice, once, and then confirm. There's also on this screen two options. The user can change the password at any time, or the user cannot change password. I don't usually check either one of these things. Now, sometimes if you have a public computer or an account that multiple people are using, you might want to put cannot change password. Because if 5 people use the account for some reason and one of them changes it, the other 4 aren't going to know, more than likely. They're not going to communicate that to each other. So if it's a public account, you might want to put cannot change password.
Okay.
The next screen is actually a screen that I just click next through usually, but it can do a lot. It's the template selection screen. So when you get to the screen, by default, there's going to be 4 user templates. There's a user template, the mobile user template, the power user template, and the administrator template. Usually, you're just going to leave it on user template. If you only have 5 or 6 users or 10 users in your environment, you may not have the need for multiple templates. And these templates control a few things. They control what security groups you're a part of, what email distribution group you're a part of, what level of SharePoint you have access to, your address, disk quota on the server. So if you just have a few users, you may not have a need to change these things. But if you do have a larger organization, you may create an accounting template, an engineering template, where you can do different things. So if you create, just select user template, the basic user template. On this screen, there's an option to display selected templates default settings. So if you click that button and click next, you're going to go through a series of screens that you can change. And you can see if you want to create a template or not, because there's also a button that says add template. So let's say you have a bunch of accounting people, and when you create an accounting person, you don't want to have to go remember to add them after the fact to the accounting group, to this group. There may be different distribution groups that they belong to. So if you don't use these templates, you have to remember to go add this person to these groups after you create the account.
I see.
You may want to create a template so you just know this person's an engineer. I'm just going to assign them the engineer template. And they have all the links. They have all the distribution groups, security groups in one wizard. So select the option to display selected templates default settings and just hit next. And you're going to get a few screens. The first screen is what security groups will the user belong to. When we go over file shares, we'll talk about this more, but you may have different file shares with different rights. If you have an accounting group, you don't necessarily need everybody seeing or having access to the accounting data, because an engineer or a salesperson, if they have access to it, can delete it by accident. So with security groups, you can see what the groups are going to belong to. And here you can also add groups. Even if you don't want to create a template, you can here all in with one wizard add them to different security groups. The next group is distribution groups. Add them to a distribution group. By default, there's one distribution group for the whole company, but you may have other distribution groups that you use. Next, what level of access to SharePoint? Now, a lot of small businesses don't use SharePoint, but you may want to change this, or if they use it, you might want to have them not be able to delete stuff, or you may need to create content, whatever that choice is.
Okay.
The next screen is the address. So if they have a different address for this user, you can put that in there. And the next screen is what their disk quota will be if you're using disk quotas. And a disk quota is if you've got all your shares on drive E of the server, you may have each user only allowed to use 3 gigs. So nobody takes up 40 gigs worth of music, as I see all the time. So you may have disk quotas for some users. You have the option to set that there.
Okay.
Now, if you just select a template, you won't see any of those screens if you don't check that box. So if you just want to select user template, just select user template next, you skip all those screens. You won't see them. But remember, you may have to go back and change some things after you create the account. The next screen, after you've either skipped these screens or just went through them all, is if you want to create a computer account. Now, every user that you set up is not going to have a new computer. If they're just replacing somebody, you don't need to create a new account. You're just going to have them log into an existing computer account already. So if you have a new computer account to set up, say it's a new user who's getting the new computer, you can set the computer account up right here. So yes or no, we're going to say yes to go through it, because there's a few screens in here you can have.
Now, Matt, I have a question for you. If you join the PC to the domain, wouldn't that, in essence, create the computer account on the AD side?
Well, it depends on how you create the account. And that's one issue with if you use the wizard or if you don't use the wizard.
Oh, okay. See, and that's a big difference, because in a corporate, well, in bigger environments, like I always play inside all the AD user and groups all day long. I'm in all the group policy management console. But what you're saying in small business, you actually go through all these wizards. Is that correct?
Right. Right. Now, you can join a computer to the domain the way you normally do, which is right-click my computer, go to Properties, Network ID, and put the domain information in, right?
Right.
Yeah, and we're going to get to that, but you can do that here, but you lose there's some advantages you're not realizing if you do it that way.
Gotcha.
So, and we'll cover that. But in order to do it the right way in Small Business Server, in O3, that is, you have to create the computer account first. So you create the computer account here, and when you create the computer account, there's a few screens you're going to go through. And I normally don't use all these things, but there's a lot of power in this tool that you could use. So when you create a computer account, you're going to have a few screens. The first screen is which applications do you want to install on this computer? And by default, there's client operating system service packs, Internet Explorer 6, yeah, it's pretty old, Outlook 2003, Service Pack 1, and Shared Fax Client. So what this means is when you create the computer account, you can have software be installed automatically. Now, by default, there's 4 things listed there, but there are tools in SBSO3 and in O8 where you can add software to your server that when somebody logs in for the first time on a new computer, it pushes all the software down to the computer. So if you wanted to install your accounting program or almost anything really, you can set up Small Business Server to push that down the first time somebody logs in. Now, I usually uncheck Shared Fax Client if they're not using the faxing portion of Small Business Server. And I usually uncheck the Outlook O3 only because most computers that I'm installing have a newer version of Office on it with Outlook. The problem if you don't uncheck Outlook O3 and you have Office 2010 or 2007 installed already, Outlook will try to install and it's going to mess up your computer. So uncheck it if you have a newer version. If you don't have any version of Office on the computer and you're going to use Outlook O3 on this computer, leave it checked. It'll install Outlook for you. But if you're going to use a new one, uncheck it. You're going to run into problems if you try and have both. But on that same screen, you have options to, during client setup, allow these selected applications to be modified, and 2, after client setup is finished, log off the client computer. Now, I'll leave them both unchecked and just click next. The next screen is the mobile client and offline use screen. Now, this screen is kind of dated because what it does is it wants to install ActiveSync 3.8, which I love the description of it. It says enables Microsoft rich devices such as Microsoft Smartphone and Microsoft Pocket PC Phone Edition to be synced with client computers and the server. Now,
Microsoft rich devices.
Right. Nobody's going to be using those things. People are going to have ActiveSync on their devices already, so I don't check that. Unless you have an old Pocket PC Phone Edition.
Better not. Better not.
Right. You better not. So I didn't check it. And then the next is just completing the add user screen, hit finish. So what you've done here is you've created a user account and you created a computer account. Now here's the advantage of creating a computer account this way. Now if you just say you get a new computer and you don't need a new user because you have a user, you have a new computer, instead of the users tab, you go to the computers link in server management and click add a computer. Or no, I'm sorry, set up client computers is what it says.
Okay.
And you go to the same wizard to create a computer account. So basically, you just want to create a computer account using this wizard because now, as you know, you get a computer. When you turn it on for the first time, you're logging in locally. You're not part of a domain yet. So whatever account you're logging in with is local. So you've got to join this computer to the domain, bind it to Active Directory so that when you log on using an account created on the server, your computer is looking in Active Directory for your user and not a local directory. So to do this, to join the computer to the domain, from the computer, open up Internet Explorer, and you're going to go to http:// whatever your server name is, / connect computer. And guess what? Another wizard is going to pop up. So you follow this wizard, put in your administrator username, password. You're going to get a pop-up to pick which computer you want to join. And in this list, if you didn't create a computer account already, there'll be nothing in the list. So you have to create the computer account first so it shows up in this wizard. That's why you create the computer account first. So you create a user for computer for Bob. You pick Bob in the list. Next. It's going to do a few things. It's going to reboot. Now, what this does behind the scenes is it sets up Internet Explorer settings. So whatever settings you have in group policy for Internet Explorer, it applies those. It sets up your Outlook profile. So whoever logs into this computer, they just open up Outlook and Outlook works. They don't have to input any settings into Outlook.
Okay.
They open it up and their mail is there, their contacts, everything's there. There's no setup for Outlook if you use this wizard. It'll set up desktop settings, which creates shortcuts and links in My Network Places folder. If you're using the fax printing, it installs and configures your fax printing. It installs all published printers. So if you have 10 shared printers set up on your network, it installs all those for you. It sets up your fax configuration if you're using that. And it turns on remote desktop. So This one wizard did all that. Now, if you just, as Lalo was saying, right-click my computer, go to Properties, Computer Name tab, click Change, and you can change from workgroup to domain in here. But if you do that, you don't get any of the settings. You don't get any of your printers installed. When they open up Outlook, they have to know what their server name is and username. And believe me, they're not going to know the server name
Right.
or username most of the time.
Exactly. Now, I keep in mind, I'm not too familiar with the small business environment, but I assume that only applies to that. In a corporate environment, when we use AD, we use group policy, which Matt was saying a little bit earlier. Group policy is just this enormous database of settings that I can customize a user's desktop, a user's total environment. So within group policies, where I assign applications to be installed, where I assign the Outlook to be installed. So everything I want to do, I actually do through group policy. But again, that seems to be in a bigger environment compared to small business server.
Right, small business server. And here's the key for small business server. I don't agree with it, but Microsoft says small business server should be able to be installed and administered by the owner of the business.
Yeah.
They're saying that this is so simple that somebody who just can use any computer can do this. That's why they have the wizards. That's why they want you to use the wizards.
Wow.
And now, I don't agree with it. It's not true.
Right.
But that was their goal with Small Business Server, to not have to have an IT staff, to just do this in-house. So, of course you can use group policy. Small Business Server is Server 03 or it is Server 08. So you still have all the group policy tools,
Sure.
but they really push you toward these wizards.
Right. And but I'm just saying for the folks that are listening is that there are different ways to accomplish the same task, and I come from a bigger where we manage 200, 300, 400, 1,000, 4,000 PCs. So the small business environment gets treated a little bit differently, and that's why it's great that Matt is telling us about how it's done in that type of environment.
Yeah, and there was a shift and change between 03 and 08. 08 does want you to use more group policy, but 03, I find they didn't really want you to use it as much. They wanted you to use these wizards. But there are some things that you can't use wizards for, and that's maybe the next show. But basically, you're going to stick to the wizards for most user
Gotcha.
and computer needs.
Cool.
Now, once the computer is joined, let's say we have some software that's going to install when we join the computer. You log in as administrator, software is going to install fine, but you run into a problem when as soon as it reboots twice, it's ready to be logged in using Active Directory. If you log in with whatever user account you want to use, you're going to get errors saying, you have to have admin rights to this computer. So you have errors there. There's a couple ways to fix this. Just log in as administrator again and let the software install. But what I usually do is, if Bob is going to be using this computer, I give Bob's domain user account local admin access. So what that means is when Bob logs in using his domain account, he can do whatever he wants on the local computer, local admin rights. And you can do this a couple of ways. You can log in, you can do it right from the computer, go to Control Panel, go to Users, and in there you're going to add a user, and you just pick the domain user, and when it asks what kind of rights, admin rights. You can also do it from server management on the server itself. And this is useful if somebody calls you and they changed computers. If I go to the computers link and server management, you can do a lot of remote administration in here. Let's say Bob now is using, I don't know, Lalo's computer, because Lalo left for bigger and better things. So Bob logs into Lalo's computer. Well, he doesn't have rights to Lalo's computer. He can't install software. He can't install his spyware. He can't do anything. So I can go in server management. I can find Lalo's computer, right-click on it, and go to manage. Here I can do all kind of stuff, not just change user permissions, check the event log, check services. I can do a lot of things in here. But what I'm dealing with is I want to give Lalo Bob rights to Lalo's computer. So I just expand local users and groups. I go to groups, select administrators group, and add Bob's account into the local administrators group. Now when Bob logs in, he's got full rights to Lalo's computer.
And like Matt's saying, keep in mind there's a big difference between local administrator and domain administrator. I walked into environments where the secretary is a domain admin. I don't know why. If you have domain admin rights, you can log on onto servers. You can browse to server shares. You can erase. I mean, you can be very destructive. So make sure they're just local administrator. Because worst case, and they just blow up their bots, their local bots.
Right. And if you don't have, we're not full time at these companies. We do outside support. So a lot of companies, they're installing their own updates. They're installing, if they get a new program, they're going to install it. They don't want to call us every time they have to install something.
Right.
So usually we're going to give them local admin rights. Now, some companies do have us lock this down to where no one has rights on the computer they're using. Now, they have service agreements, so we do all their software installs, all the updates. We do everything. But that's a certain kind of company who has certain needs. They don't want to deal with all that stuff. They want us to do it. Right. Now you're going to run into issues with some software is not going to run if you don't have admin rights, and there's tools to get around that, and it can be a pain. But they don't have any spyware. They don't have any viruses issues.
Exactly.
They don't have anything.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say too. Is you will notice that those companies that are locked down and have someone like Matt and his team manage all the administrative tasks, there's very small chances of getting infected or something being corrupted or deleted compared to a company where everyone's a local admin. Then, they're doing updates when they're not supposed to. They're downloading the newest version of a program that's not compatible. I mean, just the possibilities are just endless.
Yeah, and it's really up to the company. If you explain to them what it's going to take to lock them down versus just giving them local rights and explaining the pros and cons of each, most of our clients just pick to be local administrators on their computers.
Cool.
And it doesn't matter to me. I'll do either one. Either way, issues come up that we'll need to resolve. So,
sure.
Now, another thing I do after you've created, and remember, these wizards only take a couple seconds. It's good to know what they're doing and why you need to use a wizard, but it only takes a couple of seconds. So one thing I do when I remember, I try to do it every time, and I've said this before, after I get the computer joined to the domain and I get the user account set up, I turn off System Restore and turn it back on. Because I have had too many times a user who has local admin rights running System Restore because some weird reason that he thinks he needs to run a System Restore, and he restores it back to the first restore point, 6 months ago when it came out the box. It's not joined to the domain anymore. When you do that, all your stuff is gone. That happens too many times. So I turn off System Restore, turn it back on. So the furthest back he can restore back to is when I joined it to the domain.
Okay.
That'll save you some time. The other thing I do is once you set this up, most times users are going to leave whatever local administrator account is, they're going to leave it. Reset that local. If they have any local accounts, I delete them. I don't leave any local computer accounts on the computers except for the local administrator account. And on that account, I set the password to a strong password. Because too many times there's weak passwords on those local admin accounts or blank, or there's other. Bob has an account because he turned his computer on and he has Bob. So half the time he's logging in as Bob local, half the time he's logging in for Bob domain. He's got two profiles. He has data back and forth between the two. I just delete all local accounts and reset the local admin account. You save some headaches on that.
Cool.
Now, some of the issues I see if you don't use the wizards is you may not have rights to some things. You might actually, if you don't use the wizard, probably don't even have an email address. Because if you just use Active Directory, use the computers, if you don't do that correctly, you're not even going to create a mailbox for the person. So they may log in and say my email's not working. All kind of issues can happen if you don't use the wizards. Most commonly, no mailbox. When they open up Outlook on a computer, they call you saying, well, my Outlook's not working. Okay, well, what's not working? Well, I can't get into it. And it's because they don't know the server name and their username. Because if you use the wizard, it would just open up. So Bob can log into 10 computers, open up Outlook, and it'll open every time without any input from him, and his email's there. So you get calls for Outlook not working. You get calls for having to install printers. Because if you just create an account, a computer account, the printers won't be there. If I use the wizards, every printer on the network that's shared is going to install and be there. Now, he may have to set his preferred default printer, but all the printers are going to be there, no matter what computer he logs into.
I see.
So it just saves some time if you use the wizards. And if you don't use the wizards, it'll take you extra time to get this stuff set up correctly. Every computer he logs into, you're going to call, I need to connect to this printer, I need to connect to this printer. Just avoid all that stuff. Use the wizards. And I know it goes against, because when this first came out, Server 03, I said, wizard? What am I, 6 years old? I don't need a wizard.
Right.
I can do it myself. But you're just going to run into problems if you just use the wizards. Accept it. You're going to have to do it. Just
if you've done it either way and you see that the wizards are faster, then why not?
Yeah, things don't work. It's just the way that small business server is pushing people. Because if you've come from someone else that's using straight server, they don't have these wizards. You have to go into Active Directory using computers and create the computer account. You've got to create the email account. You've got to give them rights to whatever, put them in the right security groups. You're used to doing it manually.
Yeah.
So when you go to a small business server, you want to use the same mindset. It's just not going to work right.
So what you're saying is that I would walk inside a company and just have a breakdown, right?
If you had the wrong mindset, I'm sure you could adjust quite quickly.
Yes, like a ninja.
Like a wizard. Now, there's also, if you read books, if you want to get into doing work for businesses, if you just read a book on Server 08, that's not specific to small business server. So if you read a book on Server 08 and you go and walk into a business that's running small business, it's different. It's not the same thing. So you may have learned for a different environment than the one you're trying to administer.
Okay.
So keep that in mind too. It's not just coming from a big environment. It's whatever books or whatever you set up in your test environment that you learned. Just know, and I don't think that a lot of small businesses are running straight server. If they are, they probably bought it by mistake because it is more expensive.
Yes.
But I've seen people who bought it anyway because they said, I don't need all that other stuff. I don't need Exchange. I don't need this. So they buy a straight server and they realize they spent more than they would. They could have got small business server for cheaper and had Exchange with it. Even though I know a lot of people for some reason don't like Exchange. But Exchange is great. I think Exchange is great.
What people besides us don't like Exchange? The Google fans.
Yes, the Google fans. The Google fans. Don't get me started.
Oh man, I love pushing that button on Matt. It's fun.
It is fun. I like it. I like Exchange. If you use Exchange, and I've had so much success with it over the past 10 years, I don't have a reason to use anything else. It just works well with everything on the phones, Outlook web access. There's too many things that are great about Exchange if it's set up properly. Now, it's easy to set up wrong, and when you set up wrong, you're going to have issues. So,
Gotcha.
Just know that. So the key, again, use wizards. Don't go against the wizard.
Don't go against the wizard. Don't cross the wizard. Okay.
And in Server 08, it's even worse.
Okay.
Because they make things to where they want you to use a wizard, but you cannot do it unless you go deeper. But we'll get to that in another show.
Sounds good. Are we up to emails or?
Sure.
All right. I'm just going to read the ones you sent me, Matt.
Okay.
Hi, Matt. Can you please send me the zip file with the scripts that you mentioned in Podnutz Pro 11 regarding the domain admin reset? Secondly, maybe you can read this on the next show. Is there a website or book that shows you the basics of understanding and writing Windows batch files or scripts? That's from Bobby.
I sit on the files, just so everybody knows. But the scripting in Small Business Server, and Lalo probably does more scripting than I do. In Small Business Server, you don't really do a lot of scripting. So I don't really deal with that. The only scripting that I do is login scripts just to map network drives. I may create a script to delete some temp files, or I do have issues on some computers where backup exec services just stop for some reason and the backup won't run. So I create a scheduled task that runs a batch file that starts the backup exec services every night before the backup runs. But that's usually the extent of my scripting. So I'm not the best person to ask for scripting. I'm sure there are books, and there's really not a need for it in small business. Lalo might be better able to answer that.
Right, and in my environment where we've run a full-blown AD environment, we take full advantage of scripts from, like I said a little bit earlier, from login scripts to installing printers, installing software, depending on what group you're in, A, B, or C happens. A lot of the tasks that I do on every day, there are certain issues that I deal with every day. I get common occurrences, so I write a script to remotely go out to a PC and re-register deal files. How I learned a long time ago is I would use Google, and for example, I would say, how do I do this via a batch file? Someone probably already wrote a batch file for it. So I would take the batch file and then I would just look into it and kind of further dig into it. There are a couple of sites that are really good. One being the Microsoft TechNet Script Center. If you go there, TechNet is an awesome site. There's tons of scripts there. They go over a Windows PowerShell, a VBS scripts. So it's a good place to learn how to write scripts. This is gonna take time. No one can learn how to write scripts overnight. It's very helpful when you have someone that knows how to write scripts that can kind of guide you to how to do it, much how I've been fortunate to do. But I suggest just whatever you want to do, like Matt said, if you want to stop a service, a service, I would Google how do I stop a service with a batch file or through PowerShell. There's tons of documents, and again, it just takes time. But once you master these scripts, it makes your life a lot easier. So, like for example, for the common tasks that I do at work that are unique to our environment, I just have one batch file. Is number 1 through 15, and I just pick a number. I punch in the computer name, and it just does it. I go get some café con leche, which is some good coffee, and then I'm done. But Google, I always use Google. Even to this day, when I try to do something advanced that I'm not sure, how do I do this via script? And then, after a few clicks, and then you're off and racing. But that a Microsoft TechNet Script Center is a wealth of knowledge there.
I do have to hand it to Microsoft. The whole TechNet stuff they have set up is pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
I'll give them that. Awesome. All right. Next email, I assume. Are we done? Are we good on that one?
Yep, I'm good.
All right. Man, I'm losing you. What are you uploading freaking offsite backup?
Me?
Yeah,
it's horrible.
You did something. What did you do?
It's probably downloading the previews for the new iPad 2.
What?
I didn't do anything.
Really?
What, you losing me?
Yeah, you just went fuzzy. All right, well, you hang tight. I'll read the next email now. You can still hear us, right?
Yes.
Okay. This is from Mark. Hey, Matt, I've got a new client running SBS 2003 whose DNS needs reconfiguring. Currently, the MX record is mx1.domain.net, which then points to their server public IP. I'm not going to change it so their MX is mail.domain.net with an A record for mail.domain.net, which will then point to their IP. Did I say he's not going to change it? He says, I am going to change it. I am going to change it so their MX is mail.domain.net with an A record for mail.domain.net, which will then point to their IP. In your opinion, is this the correct way to go about it? And he goes on to further say, I'll just read the rest of the email and then we'll answer the whole thing. Also, this client does not currently have a website and does not want one, but they do make use of remote web workplace. Currently, to access this, they go to HTTPS IP address /remote. Is it possible for me to add a CNAME or a record to their DNS that will make it go to their domain.net? Points directly to this page. To make it so their domain.net points directly to this page. Sorry, Mark, I'm butchering your email here. Also, when getting them a new SSL certificate, what addresses /websites would I need to get one for, as I currently get errors on their RWW as well as iPhone when setting up the mail? Sorry for the long email with multiple questions that probably seem obvious to you. While I've worked with SBS before, it's just been general use, and I'm starting to get into business support. Thanks from Mark. Mark, that's not a long email. No sweat. Good questions. What do you say?
Okay, first, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're a little fuzzy. I'm going to call you right back, okay, Matt?
Okay.
Let's call Matt back. We got to get him in full HD clarity for your enjoyment. Dun, 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 dun.
Hello?
Here he is. Okay, you're back.
Okay, great. Okay, so, yes, I do like making the MX record mail.domainname.whatever.com. I do like that. And you do create an A record for mail that points back to your IP address. So now what you have is you've got a DNS record already, mail.domainname.com, that points back to your server. So for Remote Web Workplace, instead of using the IP address, he had https://IP address/remote. Take out the IP address, put in mail.domainname.com. It's easier for users to remember.
Okay.
You can also get the SSL certificate for mail.domainname.com. So now you've got an SSL certificate, so you won't get that nag screen when you do RWW or OWA, or for your phones that are using ActiveSync, because you've got an SSL certificate for that connection.
Gotcha.
So you just need one, just the SSL certificate from mail.domainname.com. That's all you need.
Got it. And how about his other questions, or does that answer them all?
Yep, that was all of them. Yeah, that was all of them.
Okay. This is another one from Mark. Might be a different Mark, but I bet you it's the same Mark, if I had to guess. He says, hi, this is a shorter one. Hi, I was just listening to the very first episode of Podnutz Pro, and I had a look at the products that WatchGuard offers. I was wondering if there's a specific model/line that you use and recommend in small businesses. That's from Mark, sent from his iPhone.
Yeah, for small businesses, usually the XTM21, the entry level, is going to be good enough. As you go up, you get more features, more throughput, more ports that can do different things. But for most small businesses, the XTM21 or 21-W for wireless is going to be plenty good enough.
Awesome.
And plus, plenty expensive enough, too, because it's around $600, and when they see a router at Office Depot for $50, they want to know why this one's so much.
Exactly. we went over that in that episode. You made it clear. Well, that's it for the emails. Do you have anything special that you wanted to go over?
Yeah. Happy New Year. But secondly, that's a door word. I just added an extra syllable. Hey, door, how you doing? I want to talk about the episode Podnutz the Daily, where you guys had discussed NAS versus a server. Do you remember that?
It was Podnutz. It wasn't Daily.
It was a Podnutz show, but okay. But I digress. But
there he goes. He's always digressing.
I love that. I have no idea what it means, but I'll look it up at some point. The conversation went to, at what point should you go to a server? At what point you should go to a NAS? Now, I'm just going to share my thoughts here. It depends on the environment that you are servicing. If it's 10 people or less, and depending on what they're doing, if they're just sharing files strictly, I can see going with a NAS. The advantages of a server is, for example, shadow copies. You won't get that with a NAS. So if you have a server and someone deletes their data, you get shadow copies, and then you do the shadow copy, and then you get your data back. Central management, like we spoke about last week. you can manage all the users in one console, which is awesome. Like compared to if you had 10, 15, 20, 30 PCs with a NAS, you now have 30 individual user accounts with 30 individual PCs. I've done it before, and it's just a nightmare. So that's where a server comes good into play. When you log into the domain, you are using Kerberos authentication. So you're securely logging into that bot. Depending on the NAS device, I'm not sure if the password and ID goes over clear text or not, but that's just something to keep in mind. We used to use Drobos in some of the environments because that's what they seen and that's what they use. And I've had where the RAID had gone bad and it took forever to rebuild. The compare if you had a RAID on an actual physical server, to rebuild a RAID was quite quick. So again, just something to keep in mind. And then of course with a NAS, the only role that NAS does is really a file server. Compared if you had a server, it could do many services among web server, FTP. Some NAS devices can do FTP. You can do a VPN server, a Citrix. I mean, that server can hold so many roles beyond a file server. So again, all depends, in my opinion, on your environment and where the company wants to go. And again, there are some NAS devices that are nice and cheap, but they're not too beefy. And then there are some, but the Buffalo ones that are pretty hardcore. So I guess it all depends. I personally just go with a server. I've been doing it for a little bit, over 10 years, so I just know it. But Matt, that's
good. I actually appreciate all the viewpoints on this because, you know, when you guys aren't around, like on the other show, it all makes sense why you shouldn't use a server. So I like hearing points about why you should use a server too. Matt,
right.
You got 2 cents on this?
Yes.
Yes, 5.
Now, not every business has the same needs. So you may run into a business where the only thing they need is a file server or a centralized place to store files, and that's fine. That solution may work for that company. But when I deal with a company we're trying to get a solution for, you have to find out first ask them what they want, and then ask them how they work. You need to find out everything they're doing. There may be solutions that you need to bring up to them that they might not know they need. Remote connections. Like I said, NAS is just a file server, basically. Like Lalo said, the server can do many more things. And there may be a budgetary restriction that you have to deal with, but you have to really show them what the alternative is. With a server, you can do this and see if there's a need for it. I demo what I can do. Outlook web access, email to the phone, syncing between all devices. I show them that. If there's a need for it, or if they like it, they may go with it. If they say, no, we don't want any of that stuff, we just want this. As long as they know what the alternative is, I'm fine not giving them a server and setting them up something like this.
Okay.
I just don't want to set up a NAS only, and then they're limited in what they can do and limited in their growth, because they don't have a server that they can use. As I've had a perfect example is a company who was on just a NAS. They couldn't grow. Now they have 2 or 3 servers, VPNs to different parts of the country for different offices. They couldn't have done any of that stuff with just a NAS. And part of the reason they called us is because the person taking care of them at that point thought that a NAS was good enough for them. But they couldn't do anything they wanted to do. They called us. Right. They've been a client for 7 or 8 years. They've grown a lot in that time.
Okay.
Right, and then there are a lot of environments. Again, I come from a bigger environment world where the application is installed on the server, and you have so many people that just point to the server and they run the application, and it never gets installed on the client end. Well, a small portion gets installed, but the server maintains all of it instead of having 20, 30 individual client installs. So if it's centralized there and you back it up, all the critical data is on one PC spread over 30. So again, there's advantages and disadvantages. Like Matt said, look at your environment. If the business is going to grow, the server is definitely the way to go. There is a growing pain. If you haven't messed with Active Directory and DNS and CP, blah 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 blah. It's a growing pain, but once it's done right and correctly, I mean, it's just pretty rock solid.
Yeah.
So,
Guess that's what you're looking for. So stability.
right.
Now I don't use these NASs. We use Drobos, but that's really local storage to the server with iSCSI. With these NASs, if you only have a NAS, maybe you can answer me this: do you have to create user accounts inside the NAS that you also have to manage in addition to local accounts on computers?
Now, with the Drobos, with the ones I play with, I had to create separate accounts. Door did mention, I have read that some of them can somehow incorporate with LDAP and Active and Directory and use those accounts. I haven't played with those, so I
Well,
can't really
yeah, but
speak
if
for
you're
most
just
of that.
using a peer-to-peer setup with a NAS, you're not going to have LDAP
Right.
or Active Directory. So in that case, you'd have to manage the accounts on the NAS and the local accounts.
Right.
So yes, you're decentralizing your administration, causing problems. They have to remember their local account password to log into the computer. Then they've got to remember what their password to connect to the share was.
Agreed.
And for me, that's just I don't like decentralized administration.
Now, and I agree and once you get inside a server like environment and it's configured properly, if you don't configure a server environment properly, it becomes a CF, and it's just a big nightmare. But again, just my 3 cents.
Okay. Thanks. All right, guys. Anything else on this before we end off? Or anything else you want to go over?
I do have one tip, and I'm not sure how many people use this. I implemented this week. I had a customer who has a computer at his office. He's got a Mac running boot camp, so he's got Windows on there. He's got a computer at his house, and he wanted to sync all of his IE favorites, Internet Explorer favorites, to all three of them without doing anything. He just wanted to, if he added a bookmark at his house, he wanted it to show up at his office.
Okay.
So I found a pretty cool way to do this in Internet Explorer, which is what he was using. And it's just a couple of registry entries, 2 registry entries, and I'll say what they are. HKey current user /software /Microsoft /Windows /current version /Explorer, and then shell folders and user shell folders. Those entries point to where your favorites are located. So what I did for him was he already had Dropbox installed on all the computers. In Dropbox, I created a folder called favorites. And these 2 registry entries, I basically just pointed to the favorites folder in his Dropbox. Do that on all the computers. Now all of them have the same bookmarks. And I did it for me at my house. I did it for me too. I like the way it works.
Okay.
There's no third-party software to install or manage. It's just a few registry keys. Now the trick on this is on the user shell folders registry key, there's a registry key that's a reg expand SZ type. You have to delete that registry key and make it a reg SZ with the path. And if anybody wants to know where I got this article, it's iopus, so iopus.com/guides with an S /IE-favorites.htm. It works great because I have my computer in my office, and I was actually installing my new computer. So I just, instead of copying my favorites over, I just added it to Dropbox. So on my new computer, I did that. On my home computer, Dropbox is third party. I see that in the chat. But most people are using Dropbox already. Most people use Dropbox.
I'm an Xmarks fan.
Yeah, and the Xmarks can go across several different
Right, I saw that.
browsers, and I've been using it back when it was Foxmarks, and before that, and it's awesome because my browser at work it pretty much does the same thing that you are describing, Matt. Except with I just need my ID and password. If I were to log on a PC and I just add the extension, I put my ID and password, and all my favorites are just right there.
Yeah. He was already using Dropbox, and I'm already using Dropbox, so I didn't think about any. It is third party, but I was already using it.
Yeah, no, it's a good idea if you don't want to use.
It works.
If you don't want to use Xmarks.
So now I have my iMac at home. I'm running boot camp. My favorites going there. My favorites on my new computer, my old computer. So now they're all there. Which
Do you run
I thought
OS
was kinda
10 or
cool.
you just run Boot Camp?
I run both on my iMac.
Curious.
On my MacBook Pro, just Mac OS 10. On my iMac, I put Boot Camp because, well, I wanted to try it just to see it. And a lot of stuff I do uses ActiveX controls.
Yeah.
So if I was working from my iMac, I would connect to my computer at work and then run stuff that way. But that's one remote connection. Making the other remote connections, I want to eliminate one of those remote connections.
Cool.
Awesome. Cool, guys. All right, let's end off for today. Matt, where can people find you? They want to get in touch with you?
Well, they can find me. If they want to email me, matt@podnutz.com. If they want to email me, I've been using the Podnutz Lounge lately, also when I have time. So check out the lounge, or Twitter, Podnutz Pro on Twitter.
There you go. How about you, Lalo?
Twitter is lalonunez.com, DOTCOM. BetterPCTech.com. You want to learn how to do a few scripts, just a few things to make your life a little bit easier. That's the place to go. Thank you for all the kind emails and words, and kind of makes me want to tear up at times because I made your job a little bit easier. But again, thanks for listening to the show, for being in but the chat room. I love doing this. I think it's fun for all of us to get together and share our information. 'Cause that's how I learned. You know.
Totally. I think Lalo's getting some residual sentiment from the Podnuts Daily episode we just did.
What?
No, I'm just saying. We did before this show. We did Podnuts Daily 300, where I basically almost started tearing up. So I think it's in the air. But he's right, man. It's like it's a great place to learn. Podnuts Lounge. We also do a TeamSpeak chat room, and go to the lounge. You get more information on that too. That's fun too. You can actually talk with voice rather than just type. All right, and definitely check out Lalo's videos at betterpctech.com. I highly recommend them. All right, that's going to be it for Podnutz Pro for this week. We will see you guys next time. Cool.
Cool.
No, I didn't mean anything by that. Just saying.
Okay. We could better say I was
Sentimental. In the air.
Hey Matt, did your daughter win her game last week or what? Soccer game? Oh my, jeez. I'm sorry.
No? Sore subject?
The second loss in a row, man?
Oh, no. We only have one loss.
Oh, but you had a sigh, so I'm curious.
Because I remember I'm still fresh on the.
Wow.
It still stings. Still stings.
You know, I say it all comes back to the coach if you're going to assign blame.
Well, here's the way I put it. My last loss. I said that loss, all y'all, because some of the girls were saying, well, I wasn't in the game when they scored. I said, look, if we lost, all of y'all accountable all the way up to the assistant coach.
That's awesome.
Help me, help you. I hate that phrase. When people tell me that, help me, help you. So I say it to the people, just piss them off.
We have a tournament this weekend, so we have 5 games this weekend.
Oh.
5 games in a weekend?
So you're saying that...
This is like child labor.
I didn't say that. Steve said that.
They better play their butts off.
We got a lot of money riding on this game. I want to bet on this, Matt. Hey, how good is your team? How good is your team?
They have one loss, Steve.
I got all these donations. I don't know what to do with this money. I want to put it in a sure thing.
We only lost 1 game in the past 2 seasons, and that was because they just weren't playing.
Really?
They just assumed they were going to win.
Is it a traveling team or local in-house league?
No, it's a local league.
That's
so
fun,
they might be going to traveling next season. We'll have to talk about it.
Oh yeah, I loved traveling team when I was playing soccer, man. That was my thing. We won the championship too.
Yeah, we traveled a lot too, but you know, nowadays these people don't want to travel.
Really?
At least the girls on my team,
Really?
They have younger kids and they want to play. So if you're on a traveling team, the younger kid can't play because the parents have to split up.
Right.
So a lot of my girls have younger girls that are playing. So if they go to a traveling team, it affects the other one.
See, that's what I think is missing. I mean, not that I'm an old man, but I do have some white hairs that I pluck on a regular basis. But it's
Do you
good.
really?
Yeah, I do. It's a sore topic. Let's move on. But you know what I liked is, kids should be part of a team. They should know what winning is and what losing is. That's how we learn. Competition is great, and you should know how it is to be either or. And I don't know. We're softies on today.
You mean you give too much credit to the losers?
No, but I mean, there should be something to winning. I mean, it's competition. I mean, that's what makes us like America. You know?
They probably get bigger trophies and stuff.
No, they don't. They get the exact same one.
No.
See, that's what I'm talking.
Yes.
I want the big trophy.
That's lame. That's lame. If I was the coach, I'd buy a big trophy for my team.
I did buy trophies for them last year.
They did?
Yeah.
So Matt, I want to ask you. So your team is pretty dominant each year.
There's one team that's close, but we've beaten them the past 3 to 4 times we played them. They're about equal, but we've been beating them.
Do you feel it's because it's because you're the coach? I mean, do you really know how to run these girls or what?
That's part of it.
See his look at his face? It is.
Because these girls couldn't play before. They had no clue. They couldn't even kick the ball.
Matt is
we
the Phil Jackson.
We did go through a season where we lost every game by 5 goals. There's a 5-goal limit. So once you're up by 5 goals, they can't score anymore. To go over these girls, we lost every game by 5 goals.
Really?
I said, you girls are pathetic. No, I didn't say that. I said, no, that's good. You're getting playing time, you're learning.
Did they all still get to go to Pizza Hut after that?
I don't care what they do. That's not team sponsored. The next season,
yeah.
we didn't lose as bad, and we even won a few games. But they turned the corner because the next season we started winning almost every game.
Damn, I like that.
I can see it now.
It took a while to turn a corner.
Yeah,
I can see it
but
now.
So they're pretty good. I mean, they're good. We should win the tournament. We should win.
Steve, I'm telling you, I bet you he has some type of cap on, the big shades that cover your whole face, and headphones. Even though there's no wire going anywhere,
Clipboard.
But he's like a clipboard, a whistle,
and no matter what happens, he just takes him, throws him on the ground.
He has a red flag
for a replay. To get a red flag with some of those calls. Golly.
How long are the games?
They are
30-minute, 15 halves?
50-minute games, so 25-minute halves.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
So, yeah, it's a lot of fun. I really like it. At least I like the older ones. The younger ones still need a lot of work. But the older kids who can listen, well, they can kind of listen.
I think it's fun too. I miss that. I miss it a lot, actually. The smell of the grass.
If they would listen to everything I say, we'd win every game by 5 goals.
It sounds like a line out of Days of Thunder.
When we only win by 3 goals, I tell them, you should have won by 5 goals.
Well, he's hardcore, man.
That's awesome.
We'll do better next time.
I got a little lizard running around. I'm going to get him out of here.
Cool. I don't know if that's like a lizard or a gator. It's humongous in the corner.
Yeah, this was Mardi Gras week for us, which actually I was going to be putting my new desk and computer together, but I had a problem. I couldn't do it this week.
Ah, okay. Yeah, because I wanted a picture, man.
I smashed my thumb really, really bad, so I didn't have use of my thumb for a week. So, between a hammer and a trailer hitch, a big fifth wheel trailer hitch, the kind that goes to the back of a truck, not a little trailer hitch for a little boat, but a big one that weighs thousands of pounds.
Yeah.
That was an accident, so.
I mean, is it like broken or just really sore?
I couldn't bend it for a couple of days, and I can bend it. It's still black and blue, and the nail might fall off, but.
Sorry.
I had to do that. I had to do that thing where you had to drill a hole in your fingernail and drain it every few hours.
Can we stop the show now? Because now I'm totally getting disgusted by Matt. I'm about to eat now. Now I'm thinking about your fingernail being drilled.
When this happened, I was sweating. I was lightheaded, dizzy. I thought I was going to pass out. I had to have somebody drive me home so I could do my medical procedure.
Wait, so you had did it on yourself?
Well, yeah. That's the short of it.
All right, man. All right.
And it still hurts because every time I touch it, it still hurts. And I forget, I put my hand in my pocket, and like, it hurts. You know, it hurts all the time. It's cool to look at, though. I like it.
It's cool looking at it.
With this big hole drilled in it.
I'm gonna take your word for it.
But
I
if
have
you
used
ever
mine.
really, anybody, if you ever really stub your toe or you smash your finger and it starts to get, black and blue under your nail, you've got to drill a hole in that thing. Oh, it's gonna help. As soon as I did it, I stopped getting lightheaded. I stopped sweating. It was hurting until I did that. But as soon as the pressure was relieved, all the blood oozed out of it, boy, it felt really good. I mean, it still hurt, but compared to burn a hole, yeah. Actually, I did burn a hole. I heated up a pan and I kind of twisted and pushed it in there.
What are we talking about? Steve, get in here, man.
What's going on?
Matt did his own surgical ER procedure on his thumb. He smashed it.
And I did this while I was about to pass out too.
What happened?
I smashed it between a hammer and a big, huge fifth wheel trailer hitch.
Oh. And what, was it like bone sticking out or what?
No, but as soon as I did, I looked at it. I couldn't bend my thumb right away. I couldn't bend it. And, my nail just immediately turned all black and blue. I could see all the blood underneath. I was sweating, dizzy, lightheaded. I had somebody drive me home, and so I could poke a hole. I heated up actually, somebody told me to use a drill, but what I did was I heated up a safety pin real hot, and I just burned a hole in my nail to drain it all.
Oh, man.
See, that's the reaction I just had.
Is it broken?
No, it wasn't broken. I mean, I couldn't bend it because of all the swelling. But as soon as I
Sick. Now that's why I
strained
can tell you were talking about like that now.
as soon as I drained it, I had it drained every few hours for like 2 days. Every few hours, I had it.
Why didn't you just
drill
want to take it to the doctor or something?
The doctor? I ain't got time for that.
Well, I didn't know you were like an expert on personal home surgeries.
I did. I looked it up on Google.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Somebody said poke a hole in it, so I heated up a safety pin and
Okay,
burned a hole in my thumb.
My question now comes to you, Matt. How many searches before you said, okay, I'm going to poke a hole in it? I mean, was it the first hit? You're like, okay, I'm down. I'm doing it.
It was a top result.
The top result. That's what I like the time I looked up fast acting laxative and top result was Taco Bell.
Hey, but they had 4 responses, and they all said, yeah, do it, so I did it. I was running short on options. I was really about to pass out.
Okay.
So when I did it, I mean, as soon as I drilled a hole in there, all this stuff started coming out.
Like
But I
quickly,
did have
like bursting out.
it was like a shooting out, but it was coming out pretty quickly. So, but I had to drain it every couple of hours. I had to drain it for 2 days.
Damn, was it painful?
When I smashed it, it was painful. Drilling the hole in it felt really good. Because all the pressure that was on there, as soon as I got the blood out of there, the pressure went away. Now, the pressure would come back every few hours.
So you just drained it again?
That's why I had to drain it again.
Yeah, you should have just made like a permanent hole. This way you wouldn't have to keep draining it.
Well, it would clot under the hole. So I'd
Just
stick
kidding,
the
I'm
pin
just
in there and
kidding.
I'd pry it up. I was prying in every direction. It was pretty cool.
You can't see this, but I got a US. It's actually transparent. You can see through it. It's a FireWire enclosure for recording my shows on now. I have a hard drive just sitting bare on this desk with a USB cord sticking out of it. It's not really safe. But no, go ahead, man. You were telling us about your wound.
Oh no, you gotta it's a tip. That's the good tip. Drill a hole or get a hot, heat up a pan, poke a hole in it. It's the best way. I would post it on Google if I could.
That's the hard drive that's recording the shows right now. It's quite a sight to see. Don't try this at home, especially when your cat likes to jump up on the table. But I had to do it for tonight. It was my last resort. But now I have one that looks like a Mac Pro. Look at that thing.
Looks like a Mac Pro.
It does.
It must be awesome then, if it even looks like a Mac Pro.
It looks like a mini Mac Pro. Look at it.
Come on, why are they ripping off that? What are they doing?
I don't know. I'm gonna get that set up.
All right. Hey, so Steve, next week is the week that I can't do the show this month.
Okay, no problemo.
I was notified.
That's cool. It's cool. We give it a little breather.
And hopefully have my new desk. My new desk is put together. My new computer doesn't work. The third monitor doesn't work.
Oh, serious?
Yes, I was very upset.
What does it have? Two DVIs, one HDMI, and a display port?
2 display port, 1 DVI.
Which one doesn't work? The DVI?
Well, okay, I didn't order the computer. Someone else ordered it for me. And when I was researching this card, only 2 can be active at a time. So I've got to order another video card to get my third monitor working.
That's super lame. What's the fourth port?
There's no fourth port. It's just 2 display port and 1 DVI.
Oh, man.
But only 2 of them can be active. So I got to order another video card.
No HDMI?
No.
Okay, just checking.
No. So I'm still stuck with 2 monitors.
Oh, poor Matt.
But they are 24.5-inch monitors now, not my 21.5.
Damn, man.
So I got 3 monitors on my desk, but only 2 of them work. It's annoying.
You got some real estate there, though, man. You can't complain too much.
Yeah, well, I got a new desk. That's what I was putting together today with my thumb all hurting. And when I do too much, my thumb starts bleeding again. Even though I did this like 5 or 6 days ago.
Give your thumb a rest.
Hey, when I did this, I was at work, and I took a break to help somebody with a trailer hitch, and I did all this, and I was sweating, I was passing out. I came home, drilled a hole in it, put a bandage on it, and went back to work.
That's hard. Hey, man, I give you props for that. That's hardcore. Do you let's just see it real quick before we end off. Can we see
I don't know how big you can see it.
Oh, it's bad.
It's blue.
It looks a lot better today. This was last Thursday.
I'm glad I didn't see it back then. Last Thursday. I was going to say you didn't show it on the show, but okay.
No, it was so long ago, and it looks a lot better now. I'm trying to turn so you can see the hole. Can't see the hole.
Thank God.
I don't want to see the hole.
This camera is weird. I mean, I can't turn enough.
Okay, I see the hole now.
See that dark spot?
Yeah.
You put a hole through your fingernail?
Yes, Steve.
Yeah, you got to do that.
Oh. Ooh.
That's nasty, man.
Hey, it might be nasty if the whole nail falls
Hey,
off.
I'll tell you what, man. If them girls don't hustle this weekend, you show them your thumb. Because I went back to work.
And my wife said, "Where you going?" I said, "I'm back to work." I said, "Well, I'm fine now. I got things to do. Come on."
Nice. I like it, Matt.
I know somebody's talking on the show. Who was it? It was Podnutz last night. Who was it? Was it Max or Mail? Somebody said he takes a nap during the day.
It was Bryce.
Right?
Bryce from Technibble. We're like, yeah, we should take a break. I'm like, it's good to take a break when I'm doing laptops. And Max said something, and I said I take a walk, and Bryce takes naps. He says it works really good.
I'll bet it does.
You're all re-energized and ready for more.
See, unfortunately, and I put this. I was in the chat last night. I put this. Some days I'm lucky to even get lunch or even go to the bathroom. Some days, and I know I should take breaks for those kind of things, but.
You know what? If you can hack it, that's fine. I can't do 3 laptop repair jacks in a row. I just go nuts. So
no. See, if I was doing that, I could stop, but I'm usually on the phone with clients or at a client's office all day long, and I can't. And it's worth when you think I'm almost done, and that turns into 4 hours later.
Right.
That's what drives me crazy. So I'll usually, but sometimes, and to be honest, some places you don't want to go to the bathroom in some of these places. They're filthy, disgusting. I'll hold it. But sometimes I just can't. I'm in the middle of something. They're down. I can't leave. I have to do it. I'll come home at 6, 7 o'clock at night and didn't eat since breakfast. Didn't do anything else since I left. It's just how it goes. But,
I know. I've had those days too. But when you're working for yourself and you have the option to take time, you do. When you're forced into not forced, but if you're in a constant action, a lot of times I make it through a whole day and then go, whoa, what the hell just happened today? But you give yourself the opportunity to have a break and you'll probably take one.
Yeah. I tell my guys, don't do that. I mean, I do it, but that's me, I tell my guys, you take a break, go eat lunch, do whatever.
Right.
Tell the client, look, you're going to eat lunch. You're not skipping lunch, are you? I'm going to go eat lunch and come back.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
but anyway,
Well, take care, man. Take care of your thumb, and good luck with the girls.
All right, Matt. Yep, and have a good game, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
alrighty. See y'all
Okay.
in a couple weeks. Bye.
See you, Matt. Thanks. And once again, thank all you guys for sticking around, watching Podnutz Pro. Again, tons of thanks for all the support and the Podnutz network through the years. Podnutz Daily 300 was awesome. I'll get that edited and released for you guys. Anything you want to say to the folks before we end off, Lalo?
Hey, just thanks for taking the time of your busy day to watch this show and any other show, and thanks.
Cool. See you guys. I appreciate it again, and talk to you soon.